Whitney Elizabeth Houston, August 9, 1963 to February 11, 2012, was an American singer, actress, film producer, and philanthropist. Known as The Voice, she is one of the most awarded entertainers of all time and has been inducted into numerous halls of fame. Houston's crossover appeal on the popular music charts and her performances influenced the breaking down of gender and racial barriers, as well as popular culture. She has been recognized for her vocal delivery, distinctive timbre, and for popularizing the use of gospel singing techniques in pop music. In 2023, Rolling Stone ranked Houston second on their list of the greatest singers of all time. She has sold over 220 million records worldwide, becoming one of the best-selling music artists in history. Houston also enhanced her popularity by producing and starring in multicultural movies. Her life and career have been the subject of multiple documentaries and television specials. Personal life. Houston was Christian and made it a point to sing gospel songs during all of her live concert tours. When Houston was 16, she met Robin Crawford, then a collegiate basketball player for Monmouth University, while both worked as counselors at a youth summer camp in East Orange. The two became fast friends, and Houston later described Crawford as the sister she never had. After Houston graduated, they became roommates at an apartment complex in Woodbridge, 20 miles from East Orange. Shortly after Houston signed with Arista, Crawford became the singer's executive assistant. During Houston's early fame, rumors speculated of a romance between Houston and Crawford, which both denied. During a Time magazine interview in 1987 in 2019, Crawford wrote in her memoirs, "A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston," that the early part of their friendship had been physical before Houston signed a recording deal. Crawford remained Houston's close friend and employee until 2000. Throughout the 1980s, Houston was romantically linked to musician Jermaine Jackson, American football star Randall Cunningham, restaurateur Brad Johnson, and actor Eddie Murphy. She then met R&B singer Bobby Brown at the 1989 Soul Train Music Awards. After a 3-year courtship, the two were married on July 18, 1992. The two singers occasionally collaborated on songs, including the hit record, Something in Common. Brown would go on to have several run-ins with the law for drunken driving, drug possession, and battery, including some jail time. On March 4, 1993, Houston gave birth to their daughter Bobby Christina Brown, March 4, 1993 to July 26, 2015, the couple's only child. Houston revealed in a 1993 interview with Barbara Walters that she had a miscarriage during the filming of The Bodyguard. Throughout their marriage, Houston and Brown tried having another child, with Houston suffering several miscarriages, including one in July 1994 and another in December 1996. In December 2003, Brown was charged with battery following an altercation during which he threatened to beat Houston and then assaulted her. Police reported that Houston had visible injuries to her face. In September 2006, a year after being Bobby Brown aired, Houston filed for legal separation from Brown, later filing for divorce the following month. The divorce was granted on April 24, 2007, with Houston admitting Brown was unreliable in supporting their teenage daughter. Early life and family. New Hope Baptist Church, where Houston sang in the choir as a child. Whitney Elizabeth Houston was born on August 9, 1963, at Presbyterian Hospital in Newark, New Jersey, to Emily Sissy, née Drinkard, and John Russell Houston Jr. Sissy is a Grammy-winning gospel and soul singer who was a member of the Drinkard Singers and the founder of the Sweet Inspirations before becoming a solo artist. John was a former Army serviceman who later became an administrator under the Newark mayor. Houston was given the nickname Nippy by her father. Houston's parents were both African American. On her mother's side, Houston was alleged to have partial Dutch and Native American ancestry. Through Sissy, Houston was a cousin of singers Dionne and Dee Dee Warwick, as well as a distant cousin of opera singer Lentine Price. Aretha Franklin became an honorary aunt, while Darlene Love was Houston's godmother. Through her father, her great-great-grandfather Jeremiah Burks Anderson was an American abolitionist and advocate for the civil and educational rights of Black Americans during the mid-19th century. Houston had 3 older brothers: paternal half-brother John III, maternal half-brother Gary, a former basketball player and singer, and Michael. The family later relocated to a suburban area of East Orange 3 years following the Newark race riots of 1967. Houston was raised in the Baptist faith by her parents and joined the church choir of the New Hope Baptist Church in Newark at age 5, where she also learned to play piano. She later recalled being exposed to the Pentecostal church nearby as well. Houston made her solo performance debut at New Hope singing the hymn Guide Me, O Thou Great Jehovah at age 12. When Houston became a teenager, she told her mother that she wanted to pursue a career in music. Throughout her teenage years, she would be taught how to sing by Sissy. Along with her mother, cousins, and Franklin, Houston was influenced by singers such as Chaka Khan, Gladys Knight, and Roberta Flack. Houston attended Franklin Elementary School, now Whitney E. Houston Academy of Creative and Performing Arts, before transferring to Mount St. Dominic Academy by 6th grade. Career 1978 to 1984, career beginnings. Houston's professional career began shortly after she placed second in a statewide talent showcase in 1977 after she joined her mother's band as a backing singer while Sissy performed on the NYC Cabaret Club circuit. On February 18, 1978, a 14-year-old Houston made her non-church performance debut at Manhattan's Town Hall singing the Broadway standard Tomorrow from the musical Annie, receiving her first standing ovation. That same year, she began a career as a session singer backing up her mother and producer Michael Zager. Before being assigned to backup artists such as Lou Rawls and Chaka Khan, it was with Zager where Houston recorded lead vocals alongside her mother on the song, Life's a Party, featured on the album of the same name. Houston became a fashion model in 1980 after she was discovered by a photographer who filmed her following a benefit concert for the United Negro College Fund at Carnegie Hall. She became one of the first black women to appear on the cover of a fashion magazine when she appeared on the cover of 17 the following year. With her looks and girl next door charm, Houston became one of the most sought-after teen models in the country, later appearing in fashion spreads for Glamour, Cosmopolitan, and Young Mississippi. During that period, Houston continued her music career, recording demos of gospel recordings with producer Stephen Abdul Khan Brown. Houston's vocal talent made her sought after for recording deals by the likes of Michael Zager and Luther Vandross. The offers, however, were turned down by her mother because she wanted Houston to finish school. In September 1981, she signed with Terra Productions, under the advice of her cousin Dion, and hired Gene Harvey as her manager, with co-managers Daniel Gittleman and Seymour Flicks, also working closely with Houston. During 1982, Houston would audition for CBS Records and Elektra Records. That year, she was assigned lead vocals on the song Memories by the band Material, later released on their 1982 album, One Down. Robert Christgau of The Village Voice called her contribution one of the most gorgeous ballads you've ever heard. Around this time, another ballad, Eternal Love, co-written by Paul Jabara, would be placed on Jabara's album, Paul Jabara and Friends, which would be released in March 1983. By the end of 1982, Houston was in talks of securing a deal with Elektra Records through the label's president, Bruce Lundvall, who offered her a contract that December. In the late winter of 1983, Jerry Griffith, an A&R representative for Arista Records, saw Houston performing with her mother at the 7th Avenue South nightclub in Manhattan. Griffith convinced Arista head Clive Davis to make time to see her perform at another nightclub called Sweet Waters the following week. Davis was impressed and immediately offered a worldwide record deal, which Houston eventually signed on April 10, 1983. Since she was only 19, her parents also signed for her. 2 weeks later, on April 29, Houston performed on The Merv Griffin Show. After an introduction from Davis, her performance later aired on June 23. She performed Home, a song from the musical The Wiz. Houston did not begin work on an album immediately. The label wanted to make sure no other labels signed her away, and Davis wanted to ensure he had the right material and producers for her debut album. Some producers passed on the project because of prior commitments. Houston first recorded a duet with Teddy Pendergrass, Hold Me, which appeared on his gold album, Love Language. The single was released in 1984 and gave Houston her first taste of success, becoming a top 10 hit on the R&B and adult contemporary charts. It would also appear on her debut album in 1985. She also appeared as a duet vocalist and background singer on Jermaine Jackson's Dynamite and Kashif's Send Me Your Love albums. During this early period, Houston continued to model, appeared in a commercial for the Canada Dry soft drink, and also began singing commercial jingles, including one for the restaurant brand, Steak and Ale. 1985 to 1986, Whitney Houston and rise to international prominence. After nearly 2 years of sessions, Whitney Houston was released on Valentine's Day, February 14, 1985. Co-produced by Kashif, Jermaine Jackson, Michael Masser, and Narada Michael Walden, the album would spend more than 3 years on the Billboard 200 and shot up to number 1 on the chart in March 1986, over a year after its release, where it would stay for 14 weeks. The album would hit #1 or hit the top 5 in more than 10 other countries. Certified diamond in the United States for sales of 14 million copies, the album has reportedly sold 25 million copies worldwide. Rolling Stone magazine praised Houston, calling her one of the most exciting new voices in years, while the New York Times called the album an impressive, musically conservative showcase for an exceptional vocal talent. The album launched 7 singles in various countries, including 4 alone in the United States. The album spawned 4 top 10 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, including the top 5 crossover hit, You Give Good Love, and 3 consecutive #1 singles, Saving All My Love for You, How Will I Know, and Greatest Love of All. This feat made Houston the first solo female recording artist to launch 3 #1 singles off a single album. Outside the US, Saving All My Love for You hit #1 in the UK and Ireland, How Will I Know reached #1 in Canada, and Greatest Love of All topped the charts in Australia. In addition, the album's international success was further buoyed by the ballad All at Once, which hit the top 5 in selected European countries. Another song, Thinking About You, became a top 10 single on the R&B chart. The album would receive 4 Grammy Award nominations, including 3 at the 1986 ceremony, including Album of the Year, winning 1 in the Best Female Pop Vocal Performance category for Saving All My Love for You. A controversy arose after Houston was deemed ineligible for entry for a nomination for Best New Artist. Despite an angry letter from Clive Davis, the committee defended the decision, noting Houston's previous chart duet with Teddy Pendergrass. Houston received more awards from her work on the album, including 14 Billboard Awards, including Top Pop Artist and Top Pop Album, the first album by a female artist to receive that distinction, and an NAACP Image Award. Houston's music video for How Will I Know won her an MTV Video Music Award. Houston's performance of Saving All My Love for You at the 1986 Grammys later resulted in Houston winning an Emmy Award. Houston would also receive 7 American Music Awards, including 5 alone in 1987. Houston first supported the album by being an opening act for singer Jeffrey Osborne before moving on to open for Luther Vandross. By October 1985, Houston had become a solo headliner, later opening at Carnegie Hall. Houston embarked on her first world tour, the Greatest Love World Tour, in July 1986. Houston toured for 50 dates up until the end of the year. The album's success was attributed to Houston's performances on late-night talk shows, something that was usually not accessible to emerging black acts, though Houston's early music video clips for You Give Good Love and Saving All My Love for You found heavy airplay on stations such as BET and VH1. The singer and Arista struggled to submit these videos to MTV. At that time, the channel received harsh criticism for not playing enough videos by artists of color while favoring predominantly white acts. In 2001, Houston explained in an interview with the channel how it rejected You Give Good Love because it was a very kind of R&B song. Following the release of Saving All My Love for You, MTV agreed to play its video clip on light rotation because, Houston said, the song hit so hard and exploded so heavy that they had no choice but to play it. In December 1985, Arista submitted the video to How Will I Know, which immediately gained heavy rotation and introduced Houston to the young MTV audience. Though other artists such as Donna Summer and Tina Turner had enjoyed heavy rotation on the channel prior to Houston's entrance, black female artists were still woefully underrepresented on MTV's playlist, according to author Ann Kaplan, in her book, Rocking Around the Clock, Television, Postmodernism and Consumer Culture, until the recent advent of Whitney Houston. Tina Turner was the only female black singer featured regularly, and even so, her videos are far and few between. Houston was credited for breaking barriers for black female artists on the channel, resulting in videos by Janet Jackson, Jodie Watley and Tracy Chapman to be immediately accepted to the channel's playlist. Houston's success also made it possible for other African American female artists to break through on pop radio following the fallout of disco, opening doors for Jackson and Anita Baker among others. Houston's debut album is listed as one of Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums of all time and on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's definitive 200 list. Houston's grand entrance into the music industry is considered one of the 25 musical milestones of the last 25 years, according to USA Today. 1987 to 1989, Whitney and social activism. In June 1987, Houston's second album, Whitney, was released. Produced majorly by Narada Michael Walden, the album also featured productions from past collaborators Michael Masser and Kashif, with the sole new producer, Jelly Bean Benitez, contributing the hit dance song, Love Will Save the Day. Critics complained that the material was too similar to her previous album. Rolling Stone said, "The narrow channel through which this talent has been directed is frustrating." The album nonetheless enjoyed commercial success. Houston became the first woman in music history to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart and the first artist ever to enter number 1 in the US and UK, while also hitting number 1 or top 10 in dozens of other countries around the world. Houston was the first female solo artist to produce 2 consecutive albums that stayed at number 1 on the Billboard 200 for 10 or more weeks, as well as the first female artist to accumulate more than 10 weeks atop the Billboard 200 following its historic debut at number 1. The album's first single, "I Wanna Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me," released a month earlier in May, was also a massive hit worldwide, peaking at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and topping the singles chart in 17 countries, including Australia, West Germany, and the UK. To date, the single has sold over 14 million copies worldwide. Following that single was 3 more singles, "Didn't We Almost Have It All," "So Emotional," and "Where Do Broken Hearts Go," all of which peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. With this feat, Houston became the first recording artist in history to earn 7 consecutive number 1 hits, besting the previous record of 6, held by the Beatles and the Bee Gees. Houston remains the only artist to ever accomplish this feat as of 2024. In addition, Houston also became the first female artist to generate 4 number 1 singles off one album. Whitney has been certified diamond in the US for shipments of over 10 million copies and has sold a total of 20 million copies worldwide. The album was nominated for the Grammy Award for Album of the Year at the 1988 ceremony. Houston would eventually win her second Grammy that year in the Best Female Pop Vocal Performance category for "I Wanna Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me." In addition, Houston would win 4 American Music Awards for her work on the album. She also won her first Soul Train Music Award when the album won for Best R&B Album by a Female Artist. In addition, the album also won Houston 6 Billboard Awards. Just a month after the album's release, Houston launched her second world tour, the Moment of Truth World Tour at Tampa Stadium in July 1987. The tour eventually ended its North American leg as one of the 10 highest-grossing concert tours of the year and the highest-grossing of the year by a female performer, topping tours by both Madonna and Tina Turner. Houston would eventually toured 150 dates throughout the nearly 2-year tour, including 8 sold-out dates at London's Wembley Arena. The singer's unprecedented successes helped her to earn notices on Forbes magazine. In 1987, she was ranked the 8th highest-ranking entertainer of the year on its Forbes 40 list, earning $43 million in that year alone, the highest-earning musician and highest black female entertainer on the list. She was only the 3rd highest after Bill Cosby and Eddie Murphy. In 1988, she ranked 17th. Houston was a supporter of Nelson Mandela and the anti-apartheid movement. During her modeling days, she refused to work with agencies who did business with the then-apartheid South Africa. On June 11, 1988, during the European leg of her tour, Houston joined other musicians to perform a set at Wembley Stadium in London to celebrate a then-imprisoned Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday. Over 72,000 people attended Wembley Stadium and over 1 billion people tuned in worldwide as the rock concert raised over $1 million for charities while bringing awareness to apartheid. 94. Houston then flew back to the U.S. for a concert at Madison Square Garden in New York City in August. The show was a benefit concert that raised $250,000 for the United Negro College Fund. In the same year, she recorded a song for NBC's coverage of the 1988 Summer Olympics, "One Moment in Time," which became a top 5 hit in the U.S., while reaching number 1 in the UK and Germany. The song later won Houston and her producer Narada Michael Walden a Sports Emmy Award. In January 1989, Houston formed the Whitney Houston Foundation for Children, a non-profit organization that has raised funds for the needs of children around the world. The organization cares for homelessness, children with cancer or AIDS, and other issues of self-empowerment. The organization now functions under the name, the Whitney E. Houston Legacy Foundation. 1990 to 1991, "I'm Your Baby Tonight" and "The Star-Spangled Banner." Houston in 1990. With the success of her first 2 albums, Houston became an international crossover superstar, appealing to all demographics. However, some black critics believed she was selling out. They felt her singing on record lacked the soul that was present during her live concerts. At the 1989 Soul Train Music Awards, when Houston's name was called out for a nomination, a few in the audience jeered. Houston defended herself against the criticism, stating, "If you're going to have a long career, there's a certain way to do it, and I did it that way. I'm not ashamed of it." 103. Houston took a more urban direction with her third studio album, I'm Your Baby Tonight, released in November 1990. The first album in which she served as executive producer and exerted creative control for the first time in her career, Houston chose mostly black producers such as the team of L.A. Reid and Babyface, as well as Luther Vandross and Stevie Wonder, while maintaining Narada Michael Walden as one of the main producers. The album showed Houston's versatility on a new batch of tough rhythmic grooves, soulful ballads, and uptempo dance tracks. Reviews were mixed. Rolling Stone felt it was her best and most integrated album, while Entertainment Weekly, at the time, thought Houston's shift towards an urban direction was superficial. Reaching number 3 on the Billboard 200, the album stayed inside the top 10 for 22 weeks, becoming the 10th best-selling album of 1991. The album also became Houston's second number 1 album on the top R&B albums chart, staying there for 8 consecutive weeks. The album launched 6 singles, 3 of which, I'm Your Baby Tonight, All the Man That I Need, and Miracle, made the top 10, with the former 2 topping the Billboard Hot 100. That feat helped Houston become the first female solo artist to have multiple number 1 singles off 3 or more albums. 109, the fourth single, My Name Is Not Susan, peaked inside the top 20, while the latter 2, I Belong to You and We Didn't Know, a duet with Wonder, was only issued to R&B stations. It became Houston's third album to yield 5 or more top 10 singles on the R&B chart. The album would be certified 4 times platinum in the U.S. for sales of 4 million copies, while shipping 10 million copies worldwide. The album would eventually win Houston 8 Billboard Awards, including 4 trophies at the actual Billboard Music Awards in December 1991, including Top R&B Artist. 3 of the songs, including I'm Your Baby Tonight and All the Man That I Need, received Grammy nominations. The remix to My Name Is Not Susan, with British rapper Money Love, marked one of the first instances of a remix of a pop song to feature a rapper. A bonus track from the album's Japanese edition, Higher Love, was remixed by Norwegian DJ and record producer Kygo and released posthumously in 2019 to commercial success. It topped the U.S. Dance Club Songs chart and peaked at number 2 in the UK, becoming Houston's highest-charting single in the country since 1999. Houston performing Saving All My Love for You on the Welcome Home Heroes concert in 1991. During the Persian Gulf War, on January 27, 1991, Houston performed the Star-Spangled Banner, the U.S. national anthem, at Super Bowl 25 at Tampa Stadium. Houston's vocals were pre-recorded, prompting criticism. Dan Clores, a spokesman for Houston, said, "This is not a Milli Vanilli thing." She sang live, but the microphone was turned off. It was a technical decision, partially based on the noise factor. This is standard procedure at these events. Nevertheless, a commercial single and video of the performance reached the top 20 on the U.S. Hot 100, giving Houston the biggest chart hit for a performance of the national anthem. Houston donated her share of the proceeds to the American Red Cross Gulf Crisis Fund and was named to the Red Cross Board of Governors. Her rendition was critically acclaimed and is considered the benchmark for singers. VH1 listed the performance as one of the greatest moments that rocked TV. Following the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks, the single was re-released, with all profits going towards the firefighters and victims of the attacks. It peaked at number 6 in the Hot 100 and was certified platinum. Later in 1991, Houston put together her Welcome Home Heroes concert with HBO for the soldiers fighting in the Persian Gulf War and their families. The free concert took place at Naval Station Norfolk in Norfolk, Virginia, in front of 3,500 servicemen and women. HBO descrambled the concert so that it was free for everyone to watch. The show gave HBO its highest ratings ever. Houston then embarked on her third world tour, the I'm Your Baby Tonight World Tour, which Houston would give 96 shows, including a historic 10-date sold-out residency at Wembley Arena in London. The concert tour produced mixed to positive reviews. While the Sun-Sentinel argued that Houston should have opted for smaller venues and theaters that were far more suitable to her sophistication and talent, USA Today praised Houston for "shuck the confinements of her recordings, calculated productions, and gets downright gutsy and soulful." 1992 to 1994, The Bodyguard. With the success of her music, Houston received offers of film work, including work with Robert De Niro, Quincy Jones and Spike Lee, but she did not feel the time was right. Her first film role was in The Bodyguard, released in 1992. Houston played a star who is stalked by a crazed fan and hires a bodyguard, played by Kevin Costner, to protect her. Houston's mainstream appeal allowed audiences to look past the interracial nature of her character's relationship with Costner's character. However, controversy arose as some felt Houston's face had been intentionally left out of the advertising to hide the film's interracial relationship. In a 1993 interview with Rolling Stone, Houston said that, "People know who Whitney Houston is, I'm black. You can't hide that fact." The film received mixed reviews. Writing for The Washington Post, Rita Kempley wrote that Houston was merely playing herself, but came out largely unscathed if that is possible in so cockamamie an undertaking. Janet Maslin of The New York Times felt Houston lacked chemistry with Costner. Houston was nominated for a Razzie Award but also received favorable acting nods, including a nomination for Outstanding Actress at the NAACP Image Awards, for acting nods at the 1993 MTV Movie Awards, and a People's Choice Award nod for Favorite Actress in a Dramatic Motion Picture. Upon its release, The Bodyguard grossed more than $121 million in the U.S. and $410 million worldwide, making it one of the top 100 highest-grossing films in history at its time of release. It remains in the top 50 of most successful R-rated films in box office history. The film's soundtrack also enjoyed success. Houston executive produced the soundtrack along with Davis and recorded 6 songs for the album. Rolling Stone described it as nothing more than pleasant, tasteful and urbane. The soundtrack's lead single was I Will Always Love You, written and originally recorded by Dolly Parton in 1974. Houston's version was highly acclaimed by critics, regarding it as her signature song or iconic performance. Rolling Stone and USA Today called her rendition a tour de force. The single peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and Hot R&B Singles charts for 14 and 11 weeks respectively, record-setting numbers at the time, while also topping the Adult Contemporary chart for 5 weeks, resulting in her 4th record-setting Triple Crown number 1 single. The single was later certified diamond by the RIAA for sales of 10 million copies, becoming Houston's first diamond single. Houston is only one of just 4 female artists to earn both a diamond single and album along with Taylor Swift, Mariah Carey and Katy Perry, and was only the 3rd in history to do so. In January 1993, the song became the first single by a solo artist in U.S. history to sell 4 million copies, later being certified for X-Platinum by the RIAA and becoming the best-selling single in U.S. history, a feat later surpassed by Elton John's Candle in the Wind '97. It remains the best-selling U.S. physical single in history by a female recording artist. The song was a global success, topping the charts in almost all countries. With 24 million copies sold, it became the best-selling single ever by a female solo artist. Houston won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year in 1994 for I Will Always Love You. In addition, it won the MTV Movie Award for Best Song from a Film, 2 American Music Awards in the Favorite Pop and Soul Song categories, and 2 Soul Train Music Awards, including Best Single by a Woman and Song of the Year. The soundtrack topped the Billboard 200 chart and remained there for 20 weeks. It remains the 2nd longest cumulative number 1 album by a female artist on the chart after singer Adele's 21. The soundtrack also became one of the fastest-selling albums in history. During Christmas week of 1992, it sold over 1 million copies within a week, becoming the first album in music history to achieve that feat under the Nielsen SoundScan system. Houston released 4 more singles from the soundtrack, 2 of which, I'm Every Woman and I Have Nothing, both reaching the top 5. On the week of March 13, 1993, Houston became the first solo artist in history to ever have 3 singles in the top 11 simultaneously and the first artist in general to do so since the beginning of SoundScan. Both I'm Every Woman and I Have Nothing hit number 1 in other Billboard charts, with the former topping the Dance Club Songs chart, and the latter becoming Houston's 10th number 1 song on the Adult Contemporary chart. Run to You was released, peaking at number 31 on the Hot 100, while a remix of Queen of the Night made number 1 on the dance chart. On November 3, 1993, Houston made history again when The Bodyguard became the first album by a female artist to be certified 10 times platinum by the Recording Industry Association of America, which also made it technically the first album by a female artist to be certified diamond. It has since gone on to sell more than 18 million copies alone in the United States, with total sales reaching 45 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling album by a female artist ever and also the best selling soundtrack album in history, earning Houston several Guinness World Records. Houston won the 1994 Grammy Award for Album of the Year for the soundtrack, making her just the second black female artist to win in the category after Natalie Cole won it in 1992 for her album Unforgettable. With Love, Houston won a record 8 American Music Awards, with the album winning in the pop, R&B and adult contemporary album categories, the only album in its history to do so. Houston also received its highest honor, the Award of Merit, becoming at 30, the youngest female recipient. In addition, the album also won Houston a record 15 Billboard Awards, including 11 at the actual ceremony, 3 Soul Train Music Awards, including the Sammy Davis, Jr. Award as Entertainer of the Year, 5 NAACP Image Awards including Entertainer of the Year, a record 5 World Music Awards, a Juno Award and a Brit Award. 9 years after she first appeared on the charts, Houston was a cover story for Rolling Stone, appearing on the June 10, 1993, issue. Houston performing at a state dinner in the White House honoring then South African President Nelson Mandela in 1994. Following the success of The Bodyguard, Houston embarked on another expansive global tour, the Bodyguard World Tour, in 1993-94. Her concerts, movie and recording grosses made her the third highest-earning female entertainer of 1993-94, just behind Oprah Winfrey and Barbra Streisand. According to Forbes, Houston placed in the top 5 of Entertainment Weekly's annual Entertainer of the Year ranking and was labeled by Premiere Magazine as one of the 100 most powerful people in Hollywood. In October 1994, Houston attended and performed at a state dinner in the White House honoring newly elected South African President Nelson Mandela. At the end of her world tour, Houston performed 3 concerts in South Africa to honor President Mandela, playing to over 200,000 people. This made her the first major musician to visit the newly unified and apartheid-free nation following Mandela's winning election. Portions of Whitney, the concert for a new South Africa, were broadcast live on HBO, with funds of the concerts being donated to various charities in South Africa. The event was considered the nation's biggest media event since the inauguration of Nelson Mandela. After 2 performances in Brunei and Singapore early in 1995, Houston's children's charity organization was awarded a VH1 honor for all the charitable work in June of that year. 1995 to 1997, Waiting to Exhale, The Preacher's Wife and Cinderella. In 1995, Houston starred alongside Angela Bassett, Loretta Devine and Lela Rochon in her second film, Waiting to Exhale, a motion picture about 4 African-American women struggling with relationships. Houston played the lead character Savannah Jackson, a TV producer in love with a married man. She chose the role because she saw the film as a breakthrough for the image of black women because it presents them both as professionals and as caring mothers. After opening at number 1 and grossing $67 million in the U.S. at the box office and $81 million worldwide, it proved that a movie primarily targeting a black audience can cross over to success, while paving the way for other all-black movies such as How Stella Got Her Groove Back and the Tyler Perry movies that became popular in the 2000s. The film is also notable for its portrayal of black women as strong middle-class citizens rather than as stereotypes. The reviews were mainly positive for the ensemble cast. The New York Times said, Ms. Houston has shed the defensive hauteur that made her portrayal of a pop star in The Bodyguard seem so distant. Houston was nominated for a second acting NAACP Image Awards nod for Outstanding Actress in a Motion Picture for her role in the film, but lost to her co-star Bassett. The film's accompanying soundtrack was written and produced by Babyface and was executive produced by Houston and Clive Davis. Though Babyface originally wanted Houston to record the entire album, she declined. Instead, she wanted it to be an album of women with vocal distinction and thus gathered several African-American female artists for the soundtrack to go along with the film's message about strong women. Consequently, the album featured a range of contemporary R&B female recording artists along with Houston, such as Mary J. Blige, Brandy, Toni Braxton, Aretha Franklin and Patti LaBelle. Houston's Exhale, Shoop Shoop, became just the third single in music history to debut at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 after Michael Jackson's You Are Not Alone and Mariah Carey's Fantasy. It would be Houston's 11th and final #1 single in her lifetime. It also would spend a record 11 consecutive weeks at the #2 spot and 8 weeks on top of the R&B charts, her second most successful single on that chart after I Will Always Love You. Count on Me, a song Houston co-wrote and composed with her brother Michael and Babyface and made into a duet with longtime friend CeCe Winans, hit the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 and later won Houston 2 ASCAP Awards, a BMI Award and 2 Grammy Award nominations including Best Song Written for Visual Media. A third Houston single, and the last song from the soundtrack to be released, Why Does It Hurt So Bad, reached #26 on the Hot 100. The album reached #1 on the Billboard 200 in January 1996 and would later be certified 7 times platinum in the United States, with total worldwide sales reaching 12 million. The soundtrack received strong reviews. As Entertainment Weekly stated, the album goes down easy, just as you'd expect from a package framed by Whitney Houston tracks. The soundtrack waits to exhale, hovering in sensuous suspense, and has since ranked it as one of the 100 best movie soundtracks. Houston would win 2 American Music Awards at the 1997 ceremony for the soundtrack, including Top Soundtrack and for Favorite Adult Contemporary Artist. In 1996, Houston starred in the holiday comedy The Preacher's Wife, with Denzel Washington. She plays the gospel-singing wife of a pastor, Courtney B. Vance. It was largely an updated remake of the 1948 film The Bishop's Wife, which starred Loretta Young, David Niven and Cary Grant. Houston earned $10 million for the role, making her one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood at the time and the highest-earning African-American actress in Hollywood. The movie, with its all-African-American cast, was a moderate success, earning about $50 million at the U.S. box offices. The movie gave Houston the strongest reviews of her acting career. The San Francisco Chronicle said Houston is rather angelic herself, displaying a divine talent for being virtuous and flirtatious at the same time, and she exudes gentle yet spirited warmth, especially when praising the Lord in her gorgeous singing voice. Houston won the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Actress in a Motion Picture for her role in the film. For the film's accompanying gospel soundtrack, Houston co-produced 9 of the album's 15 tracks with Mervyn Warren. 6 of the more traditional gospel material was recorded with the Georgia Mass Choir at the Great Star Rising Baptist Church in Atlanta. Houston also recorded a duet with Shirley Caesar, and the soundtrack also featured her mother Cissy Houston. Upon its release, it became the first gospel album by a female artist to debut at #1 on the Billboard Top Gospel Albums chart. The album sold 6 million copies worldwide, including 3 million alone in the United States, becoming the best-selling gospel album ever. The album featured 2 hit singles, the Grammy-nominated I Believe in You and Me and Step by Step. In addition to its commercial success, it was also received positively by critics. The album itself was nominated for the Best R&B Album at the 1998 Grammys. However, Houston snubbed the ceremony due to the album not getting a gospel nomination. That year, Houston received 2 Dove Awards for the album, including Best Traditional Gospel Recorded Song for I Go to the Rock, while also receiving the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Gospel Artist alongside the Georgia Mass Choir. In 1997, Houston's production company changed its name to Brownhouse Productions from Houston Productions and was joined by Deborah Martin Chase. Their goal was to show aspects of the lives of African Americans that have not been brought to the screen before while improving how African Americans are portrayed in film and television. Their first project was a made-for-television remake of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. In addition to co-producing, Houston starred in the film as the fairy godmother along with Brandy, Jason Alexander, Whoopi Goldberg and Bernadette Peters. Houston was initially offered the role of Cinderella in 1993, but other projects intervened. The film is notable for its multiracial cast and non-stereotypical message. An estimated 60 million viewers tuned into the special, giving ABC its highest TV ratings in 16 years. The movie received 7 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Variety, Musical or Comedy, while winning Outstanding Art Direction in a Variety, Musical or Comedy special. Houston and Chase then obtained the rights to the story of Dorothy Dandridge. Houston was to play Dandridge, the first African-American actress to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress. Houston wanted the story told with dignity and honor. However, Halle Berry also had rights to the project and got her version going first. Later that year, Houston paid tribute to her idols, such as Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, and Dionne Warwick, by performing their hits during the three-night HBO concert classic Whitney, live from Washington, D.C. The special raised over $300,000 for the Children's Defense Fund. In February 1998, Houston, 34, received the Quincy Jones Award for Outstanding Career Achievements in the Field of Entertainment at the 12th Soul Train Music Awards. 1998 to 2000, My Love Is Your Love and Whitney, The Greatest Hits. By 1998, Houston hadn't recorded a full-length studio album in 8 years. During discussion over a possible greatest hits album with Clive Davis, however, it was agreed that Houston should return to the studio for a brand new album instead. Recorded and mixed in a 6-week period, fastest for any Houston recording, Houston released the album, My Love Is Your Love, on November 17, 1998. The album featured production from Rodney Jerkins, Wyclef Jean and Missy Elliott. Led by the Academy Award-winning duet, When You Believe, with singer Mariah Carey off the Prince of Egypt soundtrack. In a week full of star-studded releases, the album debuted and peaked at number 13 on the Billboard 200, while later topping the European Top 100 Albums chart for 6 weeks, starting in August 1999. The album gave Houston some of her strongest reviews ever. Rolling Stone said Houston was singing with a bite in her voice, and The Village Voice called it Whitney's sharpest and most satisfying so far. Billboard magazine noted the album had a funkier and edgier sound than past releases and saw Houston handling urban dance, hip-hop, mid-tempo R&B, reggae, torch songs and ballads, all with great dexterity. The album launched 5 top 40 singles in the Billboard Hot 100, including 3 top 5 singles, Heartbreak Hotel, It's Not Right But It's Okay and My Love Is Your Love. When You Believe peaked at number 15 on the Hot 100, while the album's final single, I Learned From the Best, reached number 27. The album would itself stay on the charts for more than 2 years and would later be certified 4 times platinum in the U.S. for sales of 4 million copies, moving 11 million copies globally. Altogether, 0.4 of the 5 singles reached number 1 on the U.S. Dance Club Songs chart, thanks to remixes by the likes of Hex Hector, Junior Vasquez, and Thunderpuss. In Europe, the title track became massively successful, topping the Eurochart Hot 100 and selling over 3 million copies worldwide. In February 2000, Houston won her 6th and final competitive Grammy for It's Not Right But It's Okay in the Best Female R&B Vocal Performance category. The European success of the album helped it to win the MTV Europe Music Award for Best R&B. Houston earned 4 additional Grammy nominations for the album, and the music video for Heartbreak Hotel gave Houston her first MTV Video Music Award nomination in 13 years. In 1999, Houston participated in VH1's Divas Live 99, alongside Brandy, Mary J. Blige, Tina Turner and Cher. The same year, Houston hit the road with her 70-date My Love Is Your Love World Tour. While the North American leg was plagued by cancellations, with Houston's publicist citing throat problems and a bronchitis situation, the European leg became hugely successful, ending the year as the highest-grossing arena tour of the year in Europe. In November 1999, the Recording Industry Association of America hosted its Century Awards and named Houston the top-selling R&B female artist of the century, with certified U.S. sales of 51 million records at the time, while the soundtrack to The Bodyguard received awards for being the top-selling soundtrack album of the century and the best-selling album of the century by a female artist. In March 2000, Houston earned a special honor at the 2000 Soul Train Music Awards as the Female Artist of the Decade for her extraordinary artistic contributions during the 1990s. In May 2000, Whitney, The Greatest Hits, was released worldwide. The double disc set peaked at number 5 in the United States, reaching number 1 in the United Kingdom. In addition, the album reached the top 10 in many other countries, while ballad songs were left unchanged. The album features house/club remixes of many of Houston's up-tempo hits. Included on the album were 4 new songs: Could I Have This Kiss Forever, a duet with Enrique Iglesias, same script, different cast, a duet with Deborah Cox, If I Told You That, a duet with George Michael, and Fine, and 3 hits that had never appeared on a Houston album: One Moment in Time, The Star-Spangled Banner, and If You Say My Eyes Are Beautiful, a duet with Jermaine Jackson from his 1986 Precious Moments album. Along with the album, an accompanying VHS and DVD was released featuring the music videos to Houston's greatest hits, as well as several hard-to-find live performances, including her 1983 debut on The Merv Griffin Show and interviews. The set was later certified 5 times platinum in the U.S. for sales of 5 million copies, while worldwide sales reached 11 million. 2000 to 2008, Just Whitney and Personal Struggles. Houston outside the Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., on October 16, 2000. Though Houston was seen as a good girl with a perfect image in the 1980s and early 1990s, her behavior had changed by 2000. She was often hours late for interviews, photo shoots and rehearsals, she canceled concerts and talk show appearances, and there were reports of erratic behavior, misperformances, and weight loss led to rumors about Houston using drugs with her husband. On January 11, 2000, while traveling with Brown, airport security guards discovered half an ounce of marijuana in Houston's handbag at Kehulkona International Airport in Hawaii, but she departed before authorities could arrive. Charges against her were later dropped, but rumors of drug usage by Houston and Brown would continue to surface. 2 months later, Clive Davis was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Houston had been scheduled to perform at the event, but was a no-show. Shortly thereafter, Houston was scheduled to perform at the Academy Awards, but was fired from the event by musical director and longtime friend Burt Bacharach. Her publicist cited throat problems as the reason for the cancellation. In his book The Big Show, High Times and Dirty Dealings Backstage at the Academy Awards, author Steve Pond revealed that Houston's voice was shaky, she seemed distracted and jittery, and her attitude was casual, almost defiant. Though she was supposed to perform Over the Rainbow, she would sing a different song during rehearsals. Houston later admitted she had been fired. In May 2000, Houston's longtime executive assistant and friend, Robin Crawford, resigned from Houston's management company. In 2019, Crawford said she had left after Houston declined to seek help for her drug dependency. The following month, Rolling Stone published a story stating that Cissy Houston and others had held a July 1999 intervention in which they unsuccessfully attempted to persuade Whitney to obtain drug treatment. In August 2001, Houston signed one of the biggest record deals in music history with Arista/BMG. She renewed her contract for $100 million to release 6 new albums, for which she would also earn royalties. She later made an appearance on Michael Jackson's 30th anniversary special, where her extremely thin frame further spurred rumors of drug use. Her publicist stated, "Whitney has been under stress due to family matters, and when she is under stress, she doesn't eat." In a 2009 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Houston acknowledged that drug use had been the reason for her weight loss. She canceled a second performance scheduled for the following night. Within weeks, Houston's rendition of The Star-Spangled Banner was re-released after the September 11 attacks, with the proceeds donated to the New York Firefighters 9/11 Disaster Relief Fund and the New York Fraternal Order of Police. It reached number 6 on the U.S. Hot 100, topping its previous position. In 2002, Houston became embroiled in a legal dispute with John Houston Enterprise. Although the company was started by her father to manage her career, it was actually run by company president Kevin Skinner. Skinner filed a breach of contract lawsuit and sued for $100 million, but lost, stating that Houston owed the company previously unpaid compensation for helping to negotiate her $100 million contract with Arista Records and for sorting out legal matters. Houston stated that her 81-year-old father had nothing to do with the lawsuit. Although Skinner tried to claim otherwise, John Houston never appeared in court. Houston's father later died in February 2003. The lawsuit was dismissed on April 5, 2004, and Skinner was awarded nothing. Also in 2002, Houston gave an interview with Diane Sawyer to promote her then upcoming album. During the primetime special, she spoke about her drug use and marriage, among other topics. Addressing the ongoing rumors that she was abusing crack cocaine, she said, "First of all, let's get one thing straight. Crack is cheap. I make too much money to ever smoke crack. Let's get that straight. Okay? We don't do crack. We don't do that. Crack is whack." The Crack is Whack line was drawn from a mural that Keith Haring painted in 1986 on the handball court at 128th Street and 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. Houston did, however, admit to using alcohol, marijuana, cocaine and pills. She also acknowledged that her mother had urged her to seek help regarding her drug use. She also denied having an eating disorder and that her very thin appearance was connected to drug use. She further stated that Bobby Brown had never hit her, but acknowledged that she had hit him. In December 2002, Houston released her fifth studio album, Just Whitney. The album included productions from then-husband Bobby Brown, as well as Missy Elliott and Babyface, and marked the first time that Houston did not produce with Clive Davis, as Davis had been released by top management at BMG. Upon its release, Just Whitney received mixed reviews. The album debuted at number 9 on the Billboard 200 chart, and it had the highest first-week sales of any album Houston had ever released. The 4 singles released from the album did not fare well on the Billboard Hot 100, but became dance chart hits. Just Whitney was certified platinum in the United States and sold about 2 million worldwide. In late 2003, Houston released her first Christmas album One Wish, the holiday album, with a collection of traditional holiday songs. Houston produced the album with Mervyn Warren and Gordon Chambers. A single titled One Wish, for Christmas, reached the top 20 on the Adult Contemporary chart, and the album was certified gold in the U.S. In December 2003, Brown was charged with battery following an altercation during which he threatened to beat Houston and then assaulted her. Police reported that Houston had visible injuries to her face. Having always been a touring artist, Houston spent most of 2004 touring and performing in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and Russia. In September 2004, she gave a surprise performance at the World Music Awards in a tribute to longtime friend Clive Davis. After the show, Davis and Houston announced plans to go into the studio to work on her new album. In early 2004, Brown starred in his own reality TV program, Being Bobby Brown, on Bravo. The show provided a view of the domestic goings-on in the Brown household. Houston was a prominent figure throughout the show, receiving as much screen time as Brown. The series aired in 2005 and featured Houston in unflattering moments. Years later, The Guardian opined that through her participation in the show, Houston had lost the last remnants of her dignity. The Hollywood Reporter said that the show was undoubtedly the most disgusting and execrable series ever to ooze its way onto television. Despite the perceived trainwreck nature of the show, the series gave Bravo its highest ratings in its time slot and continued Houston's successful forays into film and television. The show was not renewed for a second season after. Houston said that she would no longer appear in it, and Brown and Bravo could not come to an agreement for another season. 2009 to 2012, Return and I Look to You. Houston performing I Look to You on Good Morning America, September 1, 2009. Houston gave her first interview in 7 years in September 2009, appearing on Oprah Winfrey's season premiere. The interview was billed as the most anticipated music interview of the decade. Houston admitted on the show to having used drugs with Brown during their marriage. She said Brown had laced marijuana with rock cocaine. She told Winfrey that before The Bodyguard her drug use was light, that she used drugs more heavily after the film's success and the birth of her daughter, and that by 1996, doing drugs was an everyday thing. I wasn't happy by that point in time. I was losing myself. Houston told Winfrey that she had attended a 30-day rehabilitation program. Houston also acknowledged to Oprah that her drug use had continued after rehabilitation and that at one point, her mother obtained a court order and the assistance of law enforcement to press her into receiving further drug treatment. In her 2013 book, Remembering Whitney, My Story of Love, Loss, and the Night the Music Stopped, Cissy Houston described the scene she encountered at Whitney Houston's house in 2005 as follows: somebody had spray-painted the walls and door with big glaring eyes and strange faces. Evil eyes, staring out like a threat. In another room, there was a big, framed photo of Whitney, but someone had cut her head out. It was beyond disturbing, seeing my daughter's face cut out like that. This visit led Cissy to return with law enforcement and perform an intervention. Houston also told Winfrey that Brown had been emotionally abusive during their marriage and had even spat on her on one occasion. When Winfrey asked Houston if she was drug-free, Houston responded, "Yes, ma'am. I mean, don't think I don't have desires for it." A screenshot from Houston's music video for $1 Million Bill. Houston released her new album, I Look to You, in August 2009. The album's first 2 singles were the title track I Look to You and $1 Million Bill. The album entered the Billboard 200 at number 1, with Houston's best opening week sales of 305,000 copies, marking Houston's first number 1 album since The Bodyguard and Houston's first studio album to reach number 1 since 1987's Whitney. Houston also appeared on European television programs to promote the album. She performed the song I Look to You on the German television show Wetten, Das. Houston appeared as a guest mentor on The X Factor in the United Kingdom. She performed Million Dollar Bill on the following day's results show, completing the song even as a strap in the back of her dress popped open 2 seconds into the performance. She later commented that she sang herself out of her clothes. The performance was poorly received by the British media and was described as weird and ungracious. Despite this reception, Million Dollar Bill jumped to its peak from 14 to number 5, her first UK top 5 for over a decade. 3 weeks after its release, I Look to You went gold. Houston appeared on the Italian version of The X Factor, where she performed Million Dollar Bill to excellent reviews. In November, Houston performed I Didn't Know My Own Strength at the 2009 American Music Awards in Los Angeles, California. 2 days later, Houston performed Million Dollar Bill and I Wanna Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me on the Dancing with the Stars Season 9 finale. Houston at the O2 Arena in London, April 28, 2010, as part of her Nothing But Love World Tour. Houston later embarked on a world tour, entitled the Nothing But Love World Tour. It was her first world tour in over 10 years and was announced as a triumphant comeback. However, some poor reviews and rescheduled concerts brought negative media attention. Houston canceled some concerts because of illness and received widespread negative reviews from fans who were disappointed in the quality of her voice and performance. Some fans reportedly walked out of her concerts. In January 2010, Houston was nominated for 2 NAACP Image Awards, one for Best Female Artist and one for Best Music Video. She won the award for Best Music Video for her single I Look to You. On January 16, she received the BET Honors Award for Entertainer, citing her lifetime achievements spanning over 25 years in the industry. Houston also performed the song I Look to You on the 2011 BET Celebration of Gospel, with gospel jazz singer Kim Burrell, held at the Staples Center, Los Angeles. The performance aired on January 30, 2011. In May 2011, Houston enrolled in a rehabilitation center again, citing drug and alcohol problems. A representative for Houston said that the outpatient treatment was a part of Houston's long-standing recovery process. In September 2011, The Hollywood Reporter announced that Houston would produce and star alongside Jordan Sparks and Mike Epps in the remake of the 1976 film Sparkle. In the film, Houston portrays Sparks' not-so-encouraging mother. Houston is also credited as an executive producer of the film. Deborah Martin Chase, producer of Sparkle, stated that Houston deserved the title considering she had been there from the beginning. In 2001, when Houston obtained Sparkle production rights. R&B singer Aaliyah, originally tapped to star as Sparkle, died in a 2001 plane crash. Her death derailed production, which would have begun in 2002. Houston's remake of Sparkle was filmed in late 2011 over 2 months and was released by TriStar Pictures. On May 21, 2012, Celebrate, the last song Houston recorded with Sparks, premiered at ryanseacrest.com. It was made available for digital download on iTunes on June 5. The song was featured on the Sparkle, music from the motion picture soundtrack as the first official single. The movie was released on August 17, 2012, in the United States.